Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about the only NFL playoff prediction bracket you're ever going to have to ever look at ever in the history of ever.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, Aaron Rodgers, Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson.
So here's how we're going to do this. We're just going to start in the wild card and work our way in, getting all the way to the Super Bowl prediction. Now, I do want to say, at the start of the year, I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. So obviously, if the Bills win the Super Bowl, that would make me look very intelligent. So obviously, I will be leaning more towards the Bills, but it's interesting. And we can actually just start right there. Bills versus Patriots. That's going to be in Buffalo. And I think it would be actually interesting to see if Buffalo should invest in a dome, because we've seen Josh Allen struggle in bad weather. And so if this is your franchise quarterback who's ideally going to be playing there for the next 10 to 15 years, you would think he would want to be comfortable at home, right? Like you would think, like, if you're going to play in Tennessee, in Kansas City, in Cincinnati, or in Buffalo, I think Josh Allen would rather play anywhere but in Buffalo because of the weather. And if it's a cold, and it's not looking like it's going to be a great, warm spring day, Buffalo versus New England. And we saw what happened last time these two teams met and the weather was really bad. We also saw what happened when the weather was really good, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. If you're a Bills fan, you guys can let me know in those comments down below. I think the weather's going to play a huge factor. I think the biggest issue I have for the Patriots is what I had all year, is Mac Jones is their quarterback. Maybe he has hit his ceiling. I don't think he has yet. He is a rookie quarterback. And regardless if they are, Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield or, Tom Brady, you name it, quarterbacks, there has never been a quarterback whose best year, maybe Robert Griffin III, but whose best year was their rookie season, right? Other than barring like injury or barring them getting substantially worse, no quarterback has ever really been playoff caliber, let's win some playoff games during their rookie year, and I don't care who's been around them. So I think that, along with Buffalo's playoff experience, along with the fact that it is in Buffalo and they do have home field advantage, even though the weather's going to be probably pretty terrible, I give the edge to Buffalo. I'm going to say score. I'm going to say 27-17. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. It's crazy that the Raiders were almost barely in the playoffs with a tie and are now the 5 seed. And if I'm Cincinnati, this is kind of the best case scenario, right? Like, you don't usually see a situation where, like, look at the wild cards. Like, the wild cards are the Raiders, Patriots, and Steelers. Who would you legitimately rather play, right? Because we've seen at times this year, the Steelers just randomly have been finding ways to win. And the Steelers are in a very tough division, and I understand the tie that they had was to the Lions. But I would rather face the Raiders than the Steelers. I would rather face – this is Derek Carr's first playoff game. Like, this team has not been good all year. Like, I think the Raiders are like 3-1 or 4-0 in overtime games this year. That's not if they can get you to overtime, they can beat you. And like I said, I understand the Steelers tied the Lions, right? But at the end of the day, this was like the best case scenario for the 4 seed, that they ended up getting the Raiders, because they could have gotten the Patriots, who are really, really good. I think that the biggest thing that's going to come down to with this game is how are the Raiders going to be able to stop the Bengals' insanely explosive offense. The Bengals are just insanely, like, almost glass cannon type offense, where they can score 15, I don't know why I said 15, 21, 14, 28 points in literally a quarter, because they're just so explosive. Like, they're even more explosive than the Chiefs. I know we always look at the Chiefs as the most explosive offense in the league. The Bengals are the most explosive offense in the league right now. And for the Raiders to be able to compete with that, like they just were able to compete with the Chargers, who are also in that realm as well. The Chargers aren't as good defensively as the Bengals. The Bengals, I don't remember the last time they won a playoff game. And so this would be a great moment. I think Andy Dalton won one, right? I don't know. I know they didn't win a lot when Marvin Lewis was their coach. Actually, I don't think they won at all. So this would be a huge win in Cincinnati, and it's definitely a winnable game for Cincinnati. And it's not like Derek Carr has, this playoff experience advantage like we're seeing with Josh Allen versus Mac Jones. So I really actually like the home team once again in this game, because to just be real, like they're better in every facet. And the thing is they're really hot right now, even though they just lost to the Browns. That that they weren't playing their starters. Like they're very hot right now, the Bengals, and there's no reason or indication at all that they're not going to be slowing down when they get into the playoffs against the Raiders team, who's been inconsistent all year. Next, we have the Chiefs hosting the Steelers. This is actually not as much of a slam dunk as you think. If this point spread is over 10, I would take the Steelers in the points, because I don't think, I mean, yes, it's in Kansas City, it's in Arrowhead, the weather's not going to be too bad, but that Kansas City offense has not been great. Like, I understand the Steelers offense hasn't been great at times, but they do have high quality pieces on their team, right? They do have, like, Najee Harris is a beast. If you haven't been paying attention to how Najee Harris has played this year for Pittsburgh, you're going to be made aware very soon. He's an offensive rookie of the year candidate. If Jamar Chase wasn't doing his crazy things that he's been doing, I think he might win it. Like, Roethlisberger's in his last year. He's had a couple of moments where it's looked like it. He's also had a couple of moments where he's looked like vintage Roethlisberger. But it's been mostly Najee Harris, and it's been mostly the front seven for the Pittsburgh Steelers that has gotten them to this spot. And I think from a matchup standpoint, because we have seen Patrick Mahomes have a tendency to hold on to the ball too long and try to do some spectacular things, this could go south really fast, right? I'm picking the Chiefs, but I think it'd be a close game. I know I didn't do a score for the Bengals Raiders. Let's just say 30-20. But for the Chiefs Steelers game, I could see it being very, very close. I think the threshold's going to be like 24, 27 points. If the Chiefs are able to score more than that, I don't think the Steelers can beat them. So that's why I have the score as 24-21 Kansas City. Switching gears now to the NFC, we got to talk about the Cowboys and the Niners. Man, there was the 2 seed actually did matter a lot this year. Usually, so over the last 2 years, since the 2 seed no longer gets the bye, the 2 seed is not as relevant as it used to be. However, this year, no offense to the Eagles, it does kind of matter a lot. We just saw the Niners, who are going to Dallas right now, beat a very good Rams team. I know Stafford threw a pick at the end of the game, and we all saw that coming. But, do we really think that Dak Prescott is going to have a field day against a team, that Stafford struggled against, right? Like, yes, the Rams were up 17-3 at halftime, but what was the final score of the game? They only scored another touchdown. And the reason for that is the Niners have this great ability to control the clock immensely well. And that's been an issue. Clock management has been an issue for the Cowboys all year long. And it just literally comes down to, usually when we talk about X factors, we would talk about a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who's had a great year this year. Maybe even not even him. Maybe like Mike Gallup, right? Or Tony Pollard, right? Or even a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo to an extent. That's the thing. Neither of these quarterbacks are great. Neither of these quarterbacks are fantastic. Both of these teams, their X factor is their quarterback. If Jimmy Garoppolo goes out and throws 2 picks like he did against the Rams, it's not going to go well. And this is a Dallas Cowboys team that's very opportunistic, leading the league in interceptions, right? But they're also not super amazing against the passing game, and 6 of their 12 wins came in their division. They were 6-0 in their division. Fantastic. Keep it going for them. The Niners were actually 2-4 in their division, right? Their only 2 wins were against the Rams. So the fact is that if it literally comes down to whatever quarterback has the better stat, even though both defenses are great, both teams are well coached, right? At least in my opinion. Both teams run the ball very well. Both teams have crazy young but also amazing talent at receiver. But whatever quarterback has the better stat line, and I'm talking if it's 10 for 15 and 112 yards to 11 for 16 and 130 yards, right? I'm talking just little differences like that. Whatever quarterback doesn't throw the pick, whatever quarterback manages the game better is the one that's going to win this game. And in my experience, Jimmy Garoppolo has done a better job of that, right? This is, for the longest time, the vibe around the Cowboys where it's not the same old Cowboys, not the same old Cowboys, not the same old Cowboys. The last few weeks, it's looked like the same old Cowboys. You beat up on the NFC East, act like you're the best team in the league, and then you lose to a really good team. So I have the Niners. This is my first road team getting a win. I have the Niners beating the Cowboys. Let's say very low scoring game, I'd assume 21-14. Could be a crazy scoring game too. We've seen the Niners are capable of winning in a shootout, but that's if Garoppolo and Prescott are playing well, and I just don't think they will be. Next, probably the game of the wild card weekend is the Rams versus the Cardinals. 12-5 versus 11-6. I mean, what more can be said about these two teams? Both teams won on the road during the regular season. It just comes down to, a lot of things. I really just don't see the Cardinals being able to beat the Rams. The only way I could see the Cardinals beating the Rams is if Kyler Murray just legitimately outplays Matthew Stafford, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. Matthew Stafford is, 0-2 in playoff games that he's played, and he was outplayed in both the playoff games that he was participated in. Now, it was by, some really high caliber. I think Tony Romo, that was Tony Romo's one win. I think he's, the Drew Brees was another quarterback he's lost to. And we're, the jury's still out on whether or not Kyler Murray's at that level. But I legitimately think that the Rams are just better in every facet, and they're healthier. I know Robert Woods is out and Cam Akers is out. We still don't fully know the health of James Conner, and DeAndre Hopkins is out. That was a huge hit to this Cardinals offense. And listen, they had an opportunity to win the NFC West. The reason they did it is because they lost to Seattle. We look all the way down. Seattle is the 11th seed at 7-10. The Washington football team and the Atlanta Falcons had the exact same record as the Seattle Seahawks, and the Cardinals lost to them. I have the Rams winning this game and Stafford getting his first playoff win, mostly because it's honestly going to come down to Sean McVay's play calling. If they rely too heavily on Matthew Stafford, he will lose this game for him, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But if they are allowed the rest of their talent, if they're throwing the bubble screens to Cooper Kupp, if they're establishing the run and getting it to OBJ off of play action, if Jalen Ramsey's making big plays, if Aaron Donald's making big plays, if they're playing like if they had Jared Goff at quarterback, they'll win, right? But there have been times this year with the Rams, we even saw it in the Niners game. They rely too heavily on Stafford, which is it's interesting. I didn't think they got Stafford to rely on him. I thought they got Stafford to where if they needed him, he would show up. But there's been times this year where they just rely on Stafford. If they do that, he will let them down. But if they don't, which is why I think they won't do that, I think the Rams will get the win. I think it's going to be a close, high-scoring game. We'll say 38-35. Next is Tampa Bay versus Philly. Tampa Bay has looked great all year, but I feel like the vibe is like they haven't. But they just have. I know they've looked weird at times. They have 2 losses to the Saints, which is so strange. But this is it's a phenomenal team, and they have Tom Brady, and they are going to be at home, and they're playing the Eagles. No offense to the Eagles. The Eagles had a great run, but I think a big reason why the Eagles made the playoffs this year is because Jameis Winston got hurt, and Kirk Cousins isn't really that great, and Washington doesn't have a quarterback. Russell Wilson got hurt. Atlanta doesn't have a defense, right? That's why the Eagles made the playoffs. Yes, they had a great run. They did amazing things, right? But if we look in both the AFC and the NFC, no offense to Steelers fans, it kind of looks like we should have only had 6 teams make the playoffs. Because you look at the 7 seeds in both the conferences, they needed help. Like the Steelers, they got the win over the Ravens. That was a huge win too. It was a great win for them. But then they got the help from the Jaguars, and then the Chargers, they honestly mishandled the game last night, and that's how the Steelers got in. The Eagles needed some help as well, right? And yes, teams usually need help to get into the playoffs. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say the Niners are the 6th seed, the Patriots are the 6th seed. Right? It just didn't feel like we needed the 7th seed this year. And I don't think we need the 7th seed. I don't agree with the addition of the 7th seed. But we have it, and the Buccaneers are going to blow them out. The Chiefs might blow out the Steelers too. I think that game will be a little bit closer because I don't think the Chiefs are that great of a 2 seed. But they might blow them out. Switching back to the divisional round of the AFC, let's say I'm correct. I usually am. So we'll just continue onward and forward. I had all of the home teams winning, so not anything too out on a limb there. Let's start off with the Titans and Bengals. I think that the Titans are just better than the Bengals. The Titans are a scary team. The Titans are definitely in the Super Bowl bubble. And the thing is that Derrick Henry might come back. Them getting the bye was just the worst case scenario because if they don't get the bye, they might rush Derrick Henry back in super quick, but instead they get the bye and they just get to wait and they get to rest him. He's off IR, he's coming back. They're gonna know they're gonna play, and I just see Derrick Henry coming back and letting the entire league know that he's healthy and still gonna be great. I don't know if we're gonna see him, rush for 230 yards, right, against the Bengals, but the Bengals have not been amazing against the run all year, right? And they've been a very explosive offense, and we see explosive offenses usually lose to teams who are better at controlling the clock, and that's what the Titans are very, very good at. Like, the Raiders are just the Bengals are just a bad matchup for the Raiders because the Raiders are also kind of an explosive offense. The Titans are not really like that. They can be, but they're not really like that. So once again, I have the home team winning. I have the Titans beating the Bengals, and I don't actually think it'll be close. I think Derrick Henry will be back, and he'll control the entire game. I was 28-13. Next is the Chiefs and the Bills. This is actually a rematch of the game that happened earlier this season, and I think that when it comes to this game, I think the Bills have it all day. 100%. Like, I know the Chiefs are different than the team that the Bills blew out, but the Bills are still the same as that team that blew out the Chiefs. Okay, because the Bills are, good at times and bad. You got to look at when are the Bills bad? The Bills are bad when a team can just run the ball on them the entire time and they don't have to rely too much on the passing game. Well, the Chiefs rely heavily on the passing game. The Bills are bad when people are able to contain Josh Allen. Who on the Chiefs is containing Josh Allen? Like, I know the Chiefs are a lot better defensively than they were, especially when they met Buffalo the first time. But the Bills are just they're amazing. They're almost designed to build the Chiefs because they can score just as quickly as the Chiefs. But they're a little bit better at getting to the passer. Right? So that's why I have the Bills, and you got to pick an upset at some point. And like I said, I picked the Bills for the Super Bowl at the start of the year. That's why I like the Bills to upset the Chiefs here. And what should be a crazy, amazing game. Let's say a high-scoring game, too, for sure. 42-38 in favor of the Bills. Now, the NFC, I did have some road teams winning, and by some, I mean one. I had the Niners winning. So that means the Niners go to Green Bay and the Rams go to Tampa Bay. And I don't want to just the home teams win, right? But Buccaneers versus Rams, and this has been my issue for a lot of this season, is that if you're picking the Rams to win the Super Bowl, they're the 4 seed, 12-5, only one game back of the best team in the league is, Green Bay Packers. I get it, but if you're picking the Rams to win the Super Bowl, not only are you betting for Matthew Stafford, you're betting against Tom Brady. And historically speaking, that's just been super duper wrong. So you can either go with this, first time for everything vibe, or history tends to repeat itself. And that's where I lean. I think that this is going to be the game where a lot of pressure is going to be on Matthew Stafford. He's going to have to play well. You're playing the GOAT on the road. It's going to get to his head. He doesn't have a great mentality. And the difference between this game and a game against the Cardinals is that the Buccaneers, even though they're about as healthy as the Cardinals, are deeper than the Cardinals, right? So they're going to have, even without Antonio Brown, right? Even without Leonard Fournette, they're still great. And so I think the Buccaneers easily beat the Los Angeles Rams because Stafford has a bad game and Tom Brady has a GOAT caliber game. Let's say 34-14. Now, for the Packers and Niners, this is the worst case scenario. If I'm the Packers, I'm really hoping the Eagles win. I'm hoping that anybody but the Niners win because of the teams in the wild card. I think the team that travels the best has to be the Niners. What's a team that travels well? It's a team that can run the ball and stop the run. The Cowboys are decent at stopping the run, but they're not as good as the Niners. And the Cowboys are good at running the ball, and they're about as good as the Niners. And the Niners, but that's the Niners' identity. Sometimes we see the Cowboys start to just let's throw the ball. The Niners don't really do that. The Niners also have a lot of high-quality wins over good teams this year. The Niners can also win if the weather's horrible, which it probably will be, in Green Bay in the middle of January, right? That being said, something's up with Aaron Rodgers this year. And it's really just been the last 2 years. He really did not like the Packers drafting Jordan Love. And he's been letting everybody know that he's the best player in the league, not just at quarterback, but certainly the best quarterback in the league. for the last 2 years. And the only reason he wouldn't win MVP this year is because he won it last year and they don't want to give it to the same person twice in a row. But at the end of the day, the Niners do provide a scary matchup for the Packers. And the Packers have kept teams in games this year. And they just lost, I know they weren't trying, but they just lost to the Lions, right? That was their 4th loss on the year. So, and I know they already got the 1 seed, they weren't trying. I get it. But I think that this could be an interestingly close game. I think the Niners will be playing up and prepared. You know, it's Lambeau Field. They'll be ready. It's snowing. It's cold. They're going to play our style of football, that type of vibe. But Devontae Adams is too much. Aaron Jones is too much. And certainly Aaron Rodgers is too much. So I like the Packers here, 27-24. Now we are in the conference championship games. Titans versus Bills. And sometimes teams just have a vibe around them where it's like the Shaq, you know, GIF where he's swatting away bad vibes and negative people and different things like that. It's like that. Like, the Titans lost Derrick Henry, and there was a lot of people, and legitimately so, saying the Colts are going to win the division. Now, obviously, the Colts aren't that good, but there was still a legitimate case for that because we didn't know how good the Titans would be without Derrick Henry. And to see them just be so resilient, especially with Ryan Tannehill, who I had written off as a bust when he was in Miami, and to see him play the way he has the second half of the year this year to help them secure the number 1 overall seed, it's insane. And the Bills' kryptonite has been a team that can kind of run the ball. Well, the Titans, I think, like okay, we look at the Jacksonville game. A lot of people talk about, I just wanted to mention this because no one ever gives the running back in Jacksonville credit. Jacksonville has an amazing running back. Jacksonville has one of the best running backs in the league. And it's not talked about because they've had the number 1 pick the last 2 years. But that Jacksonville game with Buffalo, yes, Josh Allen played horrendous. But that wasn't an anomaly just because of how bad he played. Right? Like, that actually made sense that a team that can run the ball like Jacksonville was able to beat Buffalo because that's what they suffer against. But that's Jacksonville. This is Titans. So, James Robinson's great, but he's no Derrick Henry, right? So I think Derrick Henry runs all up and down this team. I think that it's a blowout victory, to be honest with you. I think that we see in it's against the Patriots and against the Chiefs. We see the vintage Bills that got those 11 wins this year, and they score 40 points and they win by 15. But in this loss to the Titans, I think we see the 6 losses that they had this year, where they look slow, they can't get off the ball, they can't get off the ground, they look lost. I think that's the Bills team we're gonna get, and I think that's why I like the Titans to win this game. Next is the Packers. It's actually a rematch, the exact rematch of last year's NFC Championship game, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visiting the Green Bay Packers. And I think because it's an exact rematch, it's a little more personal this time. And so that's why I think that the Packers should have the edge in this game. Listen, they're healthier too, right? They were hurt. If you're going to be hurt, you like to be hurt at the start or the middle of the season, right? The Chiefs were hurt at the start of the season, and they're getting a little healthier now. The Packers were hurt in the middle of the season, and they're getting a little bit healthier now, and the Buccaneers are just not. And say what you want to about Antonio Brown, Tom Brady and Antonio Brown had a special connection. And that not being there anymore will impact them. I don't think it's going to impact them in the game against the Eagles because of the Eagles, and the Rams because they have Matthew Stafford. But against the Packers at Lambeau Field, I think it's going to matter a lot. And if the Packers, actually go for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal, they're going to win this game. I don't even think it's going to be that close. I think it's going to be one of those games where the score makes it look closer than it is because it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady doesn't just get blown out in playoff games. I mean, he has before, but he's had a long career, so it's going to happen at some point. So I like the Packers in a lower scoring game, but not super low. Let's say 24-20. So the 2 number 1 seeds are making the Super Bowl. I know, crazy hot take, 2022, but almost at 21 there. But Packers versus Titans on a neutral field in the Super Bowl. I wish the Titans had any other quarterback. Honestly, looking in the playoffs, in the AFC playoffs, the Titans might have the worst quarterback in the AFC playoffs. Derek Carr we'll see. I don't know 100%. And I know Ben Roethlisberger has played bad at times, but there's been times he's played really well. And I know Ryan Tannehill fits under that exact category. But would you rather have a guy who's been to 3 Super Bowls and won 2, or a guy who struggles in big games? Ryan Tannehill's always struggled in big games, and that's all anybody's going to be talking about for literally 14 straight days. And then the lights are going to be huge. You know, Snoop Dogg is going to be in the venue to perform. I think Snoop Dogg's in the halftime show, right? And it's the biggest game of his entire life, and everybody's going to be talking about how they're just going to run the ball, and if they throw the ball at all, that's a huge mistake. And I think that's why the Packers are going to beat him. I think Devontae Adams is going to have a great big game because big players show up in big games. And I think the Packers are going to really focus on stopping Derrick Henry. Now the thing is, and this is a big thing here, the Packers have also struggled against teams who run the ball very well. So if the Packers get the ball first, 3-play, 40-second drive, 60-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Adams, and then the Titans get the ball and it's like a 14-play, 7-minute drive where they throw the ball once, and Derrick Henry just 5 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards. Packers might be in for a long night because that's how the Titans are built. The Titans are not built to rely on Ryan Tannehill, but I think that in the Super Bowl, there have been cases, we're talking about the Ravens, both times they won the Super Bowl, the Buccaneers in 2003, the Broncos the most recent time because Peyton Manning was playing like a shell of his former self. There have been times in the Super Bowl where a quarterback just has to manage the game and he gets the win. I don't think that's what's going to happen to the Packers. So I like the Packers to win this game. Aaron Rodgers to go off on a high note in Green Bay. Everybody's super excited, and he rides off into the sunset and hopefully plays anywhere but Pittsburgh. So I like the Packers to win. We'll say a more low-scoring game because of the clock management of the Tennessee Titans. We'll say 28-21. Let me know what you guys think. What team do you like to win the Super Bowl? Let me know in those comments down below. Click that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content. But most importantly of all, have a good day.